Bloodlum, okay. I mean,
All right.
Good evening.
oh, yeah.
It's all right, Erica. We'll wait. No big deal.
Kids are old.
Thank you very much.
Lots of violence.
Penny.
See, friends, we have these little buttons here, so we can press them. And when they're green, it's good to be with everybody after our Thanksgiving break. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and looks forward to our 3 weeks of marathon holiday season. So
There we go.
we're sprint. But I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education this Monday, December 2nd, 2024. If you wouldn't all mind, please standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And next, if I can get a motion to review and approve the agenda for December 2nd, 2024. Laura, second. Phil, all in favor? Next, we're going to approve the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for November 18th, 2024? Brendan, second. Wex, all in favor? Great, thank you very much.
Hugo, I have to abstain because I came in late last meeting.
Thank you. Next, comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted each speaker and a maximum of 15 to each subject. Would anybody like to approach the board? Come on up.
Good evening, Mary Ann Canog, 258 Park Street. I continue to follow the Board of Ed's handling of the promise of a curriculum review vis-a-vis the Alexi book, which is required reading for all ninth graders. Can you report any progress on that tonight? I have the academic credentials and would be happy to help you with this effort. I found required, well, I'll skip that. Now I would like to call your attention to various laws, Board of Ed policies and district goals, which impact curriculum. The Connecticut General Statutes requires that every Board of Ed have a curriculum committee. I have not found it. But I found under the policies that the Board of Ed has delegated to the professional staff under the direction of the administration the responsibility for the selection of appropriate instructional materials. No vote date for this policy is given. Further, under Board of Ed policies, page 45, I find sexual harassment shall include comments when submission to such conduct is made as a condition of a student's academic success, or is creating an intimidating or an offensive educational environment. Under District Goal 4, I find promote healthy environment that fosters respect, ethical behavior, and responsible citizenship. Section 1 requires the district to ensure that every student feels a sense of belonging, safety, connection in an inclusive, respectful, and supportive environment. The vulgar jokes and slurs which mar an otherwise uplifting story meet neither this policy or this goal. It is the job of the staff, administration, and ultimately the Board of Ed to meet these goals and establish a curriculum committee. I would like to help you to rectify this situation. I have supported teachers, administrations, and students my entire career. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to approach the board? Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to reports and recognition on school security with our CAB update.
I would like to welcome Steve Bedard and Christy Carrero to the Board of Education meeting tonight. They are assistant principal at our intermediate school, assistant principal at our high school, respectively, but more importantly tonight, they are the co-chairs of our Crisis Advisory Board. As you know, our Crisis Advisory Board is a long-standing committee that meets monthly, for the most part, to focus on the school safety and security, and it brings together a wide variety of perspectives by design in order to ensure that our approach towards school safety and security takes everything into account and is as comprehensive as it can be. So I won't say any more because I know you're going to talk more about this in detail during your presentation. Also want to say thank you to Michael Sullivan and Shane and Nicole and Ron, who I'm sure will be introduced as the presentation goes on. So thank you all for being here tonight.
You know that I'm done. Slide number 1. I appreciate Brian for the assist, so thank you very much. But in all seriousness, I just want to thank the Board of Education for inviting Christy and I to come give you an update and overview of all of our school safety and security measures that we have in place to keep not only our staff, but ultimately all of your students safe. It's important just to note that when I approach this work, I do approach it from a parent lens. I have 2 middle school aged daughters, and I made a promise to myself that each and every day as I approach my job as an educator, would I do this for my kids? And that's something that I do live by, and especially when it comes to school safety, would I want my kids in my school? And I know that is carried throughout our Crisis Advisory Board in terms of our vision as we are evaluating and updating all of our security measures in school. Just to put this at the forefront, each and every year, our school safety is part of our Board of Education goals. And this year, it is Goal 4, Objective 3, which is to continue to analyze and update safety and security plans and practices. As a district, we focus on 3 areas. First being physical, that's our people, that's our structures, that's our preparedness. Our emotional safety through our student support personnel. You'll hear a little bit more about that, about all of our personnel in the building that work with our students, our staff, and our families. And the third area is our cyber. What are we doing to secure our networks? Again, we'll get a little bit more into it as we go throughout the presentation, but you'll see that there are a number of measures in this area that really has been at the forefront in terms of keeping our network safe here in New Canaan. Our next slide is something I am very proud of, and why I'm so proud about this is it's the coming together of 3 different agencies in our town. We have our school administrators. Our Crisis Advisory Board is made up of approximately 25 members. We have a representation from each of our buildings. We have district leadership, which is part of our board, and then also our town and emergency services. We come together at least once a month, if not more, depending on any of recent events. But we do come from 3 different perspectives, obviously, and we do really work in collaboration to make sure that we are aligning everything with best practices in terms of school safety and security. As I mentioned before, we do work proactively. We address protocols and strengthen all of our systems. We do review those systems, and each year we do produce an all-hazard plan that we do submit to the state, outlining what we do here in New Canaan. We also debrief and review any national crises that occur within our country. We want to make sure that should anything such as that we find out about, we always evaluate against what we have in place to make sure that, 1, we're being as preventative as possible, but should an emergency occur, we have everything in place to keep our kids safe and our staff. We work continually, collaboratively with our town's first responders, and we do ensure all of our members are trained and updated each and every year. Lastly, we do vulnerability assessments of all of our buildings to look for any areas that need to be strengthened in terms of all of our buildings.
So as Steve mentioned, we remain committed to continually reviewing our practices, ensuring that we are equipped with the best tools and measures to maintain the safety and security of all our students and staff. Since our last update to the board, we've achieved significant progress in the realms of cyber, emotional, and physical safety. So we wanted to highlight to you some of those key accomplishments in these areas. But before I did that, I did want to highlight that I think our greatest accomplishment in school safety is our exceptional culture and climate across all of our schools in our district. The strong relationships that we've built with our families foster a culture of kindness, and that's instrumental in supporting our school safety and security. This distinct quality of our district plays a vital role in the accomplishments we are proud to share today, as it creates that solid foundation for our ongoing efforts. And for our cyber and emotional safety updates, I'm going to provide a brief overview of our accomplishments. Ian McHugh, our Manager of Technical Services, and Dr. Susan Bliss, our Student Support Coordinator, will present much more detail about their realms when they give their updates to the board, but we wanted to highlight the impactful work that is in collaboration with CAB. So for cyber safety, we have prioritized technological advancements to strengthen our safety and create secure and well-monitored environments. This includes upgraded cameras, walkie-talkies, badge readers, and door propping mechanisms. For emotional safety, we've focused extensively on emotional well-being, recognizing the critical role that this plays in maintaining a safe school environment. This includes the implementation of new programs, staffing enhancements, opportunities to engage the community and families in presentations, as well as providing professional development to our staff. And building on those accomplishments, we've made significant strides in enhancing physical safety across our schools, ensuring that our facilities, protocols, and trainings are equipped to protect our entire school communities. Our crisis management plans have been updated, and new staff flip charts were distributed to each staff member to make sure that they were equipped with our latest protocols. Training has been conducted on reunification plans and threat protocols to ensure staff is prepared for those emergency situations. And infrastructure changes have also played a key role in improving our safety. Our outdoor speaker system and strobes have been updated at all schools to ensure clear communication during emergencies, and bollards have been placed around each school to help control access and protect our buildings, student, and staff. And here at NCHS, a new speed table has been installed to improve traffic safety at our campus. And we are thrilled that starting in January, every school in our district will have its own SRO. So here to introduce the newest members of our SRO program is Sergeant Mike O'Sullivan, the supervisor of our New Canaan Police Department's School Safety Unit.
Good evening. My name is Sergeant O'Sullivan. I'm the supervisor of the School Safety Unit here in New Canaan. First, I want to thank all the members of the Board of Education for your support in adding additional officers to our staff so we are able to create this unit and provide this valuable resource to this community. The number one goal of the School Safety Unit is protection of the students and staff in our district. Officer Ron Bentley and Officer Nicole Vertulli are the new school resource officers. Over the past few months, Nicole and Ron have become certified by the National Association of School Resource Officers as SROs, received training in crisis intervention strategies, and conducting threat assessments. All the SROs in this unit received this training initially and are continually trained to enhance their efficiency and effectiveness in their roles in our schools. Officer Bentley is a veteran police officer for over 20 years and has a past experience as an SRO being assigned to the high school. Officer Vertulli is a veteran officer of 7 years and was the department's community impact officer for 2 years. And she's had additional training in domestic violence and its effects on families. Both Ron and Nicole are excited about this opportunity and look forward to integrating themselves into the school community here in New Canaan. Officer Gibson, who has been an SRO for the past few years, will now discuss the role of an SRO in our district. Officer Gibson.
Good evening. I'm Officer Shane Gibson, School Resource Officer for the Town of New Canaan. So some of the roles and responsibilities as a school resource officer, first and foremost is safety. Safety of all students, staff, faculty, as well as visitors. Additional roles and responsibilities for a school resource officer are becoming a liaison between the police department as well as the schools and other community organizations within the town. Build relationships within with students, staff, parents, faculty, participate in students assisted team meetings, assist with youth-related programs, deliver classes and presentations within classes and students, become a member of the Crisis Advisory Board, as well as additional training within the police department, as well as the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. In addition to our school resource officers, we also have a number of personnel in place to help keep our buildings and our students safe. Our next is our campus monitor program, which I believe is in year 12 in existence. We have a campus monitors at each of our elementary schools, 3 at our middle and 3 at our high school. We tend to hire professionals who have backgrounds in law enforcement or military. They do go through some training and ongoing training throughout the year. They use different types of technologies, whether it be our camera system, our school gate guardian, to make sure that they are checking in any members and making sure that the perimeter and any guests coming in have gone through that process. Throughout the day, they can be seen doing perimeter checks, securing all of our doors, answering any calls if there's anything going on throughout our building. At SACS, they often help with arrivals and dismissal times as well to keep our schools safe. As I mentioned, they facilitate pedestrian safety in and around our schools. They are also members of our school-based safety teams. They do meet once a month with administrators, teachers, and our school support staff to make sure that they are being able to give input to it and also provide updates on things that are going on throughout each and every one of our buildings. As I mentioned before, they are positive role models for all of our kids, and they definitely promote a safe school climate and culture in all of our buildings. Another layer we have in our schools is our supervisory aides. These are located in elementary, middle, and high school. Their main function is really to provide assistance to all of our students and provide supervision during unstructured times. That's before and after school. That is during passing times, lunch, and recess. Most oftentimes, if you come by SACS, you'll probably see some of our supervisory staff with our kids on the playground. They really do become a trusted adult for a lot of our students. And because of that, they really are the eyes and ears during those unstructured times and really do support us as administrators in terms of supporting all of our kids. Some ways that we continue to work on prevention. We have our school climate committees and surveys where we take that information, set school goals, individual goals in terms of how do we continue to foster that positive school environment. We have our student assistant and support teams that come together in either a crisis or in a preventative measure to make sure we are doing everything we can to support our students. It's a continued partnership with students and families. I know when 5th grade comes over to SACS, a lot of times they have questions. It's a much bigger building. Usually in the first month and a half, I do have lunch bunches for kids that have questions. Sometimes parents call. Our doors are always open because, like I said earlier, I want you to feel as good as I do about your children coming into our buildings. We also provide ongoing education for all of our school community, and we do that through active drills where our students and staff are participants. And again, in terms of prevention, we are continually communicating as administrators with police and community members. Some examples of our existing strategies and systems in place. As I mentioned, we have our All Hazards Crisis Manual, which is submitted to the state each year. Crisis management plans for administrators. It's a binder about that thick, and it has a number of different flow charts should something happen in any of our schools. While we all act immediately, it's always a good idea for us, and it's used as a resource to make sure we're not missing anything, and we are including all of our staff in procedures as we work through a crisis. We have our safety flip charts that outlines very succinctly what staff and students should do in the event of an emergency. We have School Gate Guardian in place, which does scan all of the IDs to make sure that our individuals are safe to be in our buildings. We have closed campuses at the middle and elementary schools. Crisis supplies and reunification bins are available. Each of our schools are also equipped with generators should there be a blackout. We can function throughout the building in keeping our kids safe. All of our buildings do have AEDs and bleeding control kits, as well as ongoing training on how to use those. Push button locks on all of our doors to make sure that we can quickly secure all of our classrooms. There's ballistic films on our exterior windows, and internal and external video cameras that allow us to monitor what's going on outside and inside of our buildings. And as I mentioned before, and you learned a little bit about our SROs, our campus monitors, and our supervisory aides.
So training is at the heart of our commitment to maintaining a safe and prepared school environment, ensuring that every member of our school community, from administrators, staff, faculty, and students, have the knowledge and skills that they need to respond effectively in any situation. So this first slide highlights the comprehensive training programs for our administrators and CAB members. And this next slide details our training for all staff members. So as I hope you can see, we recognize the importance of training not only our certified staff, but our non-certified staff, our substitutes, our students, and our summer program staff, all through a variety of methods. Our goal with these trainings are to empower students, staff, and faculty to think critically, recognize available options, and make informed decisions that will allow them to proactively respond in the event of emergency or crisis. And of course, educating students about all things safety is at utmost importance, again, with the goal to empower students with the knowledge and skills to make informed decisions, recognize risks, and stay safe in every aspect of their lives. Some core topics, but definitely not limited to safety topics of trusted adults, fire and electrical safety, internet and pedestrian safety, personal safety, decision-making, safe driving, and more. And we're consistently encouraging the mindset, if you see something or hear something, say something. So in line with that focus on prevention and ongoing safety education, all students and staff participate in regular age-appropriate safety drills. Each month, we conduct a variety of these drills, including evacuation, lockdown, shelter in place, and others, again, tailored to be age-appropriate for each school level. CAB members and first responders observe these drills to provide us valuable feedback and help us identify areas for improvement. And after each drill, we communicate with parents to keep them informed and offer opportunities for discussion about safety. Additionally, individual school safety teams conduct after-action reviews and tabletop simulations to refine our procedures and continuously improve our preparedness. So as we continue focusing on proactive and preventative measures, it's essential to recognize that our positive school climates and the strong relationships we've built across our buildings are fundamental to ensuring the safety and well-being of our communities. Our approach remains centered on prevention, consistently empowering students, staff, and faculty to think critically and be proactive about safety. This commitment is reflected in our ongoing evaluation of our safety plans, ensuring they remain relevant and effective. We continually assess these plans based on best practices, lessons from national and local events, and feedback from our community to drive improvements. And last, ongoing training for students and staff ensures that they are all equipped with the latest safety research and best practices. Our commitment to excellence in safety and security is rooted in proactive planning, continuous training, and the trust and relationships that unite our school community, ensuring our school remains a secure, supportive, and thriving place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Questions? Brendan?
Just want to say thank you for the presentation and thank you for the for all the work that the police department's doing to partner with the New Canaan Public Schools. I guess my question is, and we've asked this before, but do you feel like you're getting all the training that you need outside the schools to bring that back in, to support all the efforts that the CAB and more broadly we're making for safety? Or is there more that we can do?
I really appreciate that question and offer, and I do feel that, and you obviously can speak up, but I do feel like we are able to get all the training that we need. And we also, work closely with Russ Kimes, and he's also sharing if there's different opportunities for us to get involved in training and offerings throughout the state.
Yeah, with the addition of Russ too on their Crisis Advisory Board, there are additional training opportunities that are given throughout the region as well that he provides for us. And when we do have something that we think is really important for our schools. The Board of Ed has always been really supportive of those measures. So it's just through the ongoing discussions, the ongoing meetings, making sure that we can present anything that we do think will be valuable. But you guys have always been super supportive of everything we've been doing.
I believe that the Sandy Hook Promise is a newer tool in our prevention kit. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how that tool has fit in with the existing tools and what you've learned during the period. And I don't know exactly what it is, but the year plus that it's been a tool that we've been using.
Yeah, so I think what it does is it helps give access to students who might not otherwise feel comfortable reporting something or a concern they have about themselves or a friend. So it gives them that platform and opportunity to do so, and it allows us as administrative team to check in on any students who are reporting about themselves or anyone else in a safe, non-threatening way. Just again, connecting to those relationships. And just those trusted adults. I don't know.
Yeah, I think one thing it has, for somebody who does not feel comfortable maybe voicing concern for a friend, they can do it anonymously. And one thing it has allowed us to do is identify kids that need additional support. Whoever that support may be, we're very fortunate to have our mental health professionals on hand, our counselors. And like I said, sometimes it may be the student that you would never expect that may be going through something and doesn't know how to ask for help. So it has allowed us to identify some kids who we otherwise would not have been able to identify just because they present very normal. It's a way that they can ask for help.
Great. I was also wondering, you mentioned the all hazards plan that is submitted to the state. Does the state give us any feedback, or is it just we have to submit it? Or I'm wondering if there's a feedback loop there, or if there's anything we learn from other districts. I'm guessing we're on top of all of the things that are happening in other parts of Connecticut, but it just feels like the state could play a role in helping cross-pollinate ideas around, additional safety measures.
I think they do that through the trainings that they offer, because there are an assortment of trainings from like creating plans and just how you're operating different drills, from signage around your building, how you incorporate your SROs. So I think they don't necessarily give us direct feedback on our plan unless if there was like something missing that needed to be submitted. Luckily, that hasn't happened. But other than that, I think they use maybe what they learned from the state's plans to offer that training.
Every so often, there are things that they not recommend, but they require us to have in place. It could be, plans for special education students. It could be plans for any different circumstance that they want to make sure that all schools are prepared for. So in addition to that, really, it's just you have everything you need, and we've handed it in on time. And like I said, sometimes the next step comes with the next plan that they want us to require certain things each of our districts have.
Well, and just to add, one of the goals in requiring that plan be submitted by every district was to ensure that all community agencies were aware of the plan. So there's a sign-off sheet that requires every school building, the chief of police, the superintendent of schools, the first selectman, the fire chief, others to sign off on receiving and having read and reviewed the plan. So it's a way to be sure that those services are coordinated across any district in the state. We were way ahead of that with CAB. So by having CAB, we already have that system of communication and coordination in place. But one of their overarching goals in doing this and requiring it was to be sure that all districts had that in place.
Great, thank you.
Question for Sergeant O'Sullivan or Officer Blank. We're really grateful to have the SROs that be in every school. I mean, it's very important. We're grateful for that. I'm wondering, to what extent does the broader NCPD conduct any sort of tactical response training beyond sort of what the SROs do at the school?
So we do hold additional training within the schools. Usually during February break, we have active threat training within the school. So we scheduled out for the entire department to go through it. Gives no layout of the schools so they understand how to respond. We have equipment for anything like that, so we continue with that training. We try to do that minimum twice a year. Additionally, with all the new officers who get hired on within the department, part of the field training is to get them into the schools. So they understand the layout of the schools, get to know the administrators, get to know everyone within it. So if they do have a medical call or something, they're not unfamiliar with it. They know how to gain access. They actually know administrators where to go as well. So we do continual training with that throughout the department throughout the year.
Great.
So to the further comment, with the establishment of the school safety unit, monthly, all the SROs are going to be doing scenario-based training. So they're going to be, like Shane in January is going to be doing a two-man entry training, where we'll get an area either here at one of the schools, and just the SROs will train as a group to how to respond to a situation if it did happen. So we're going to have monthly training on two-man entries into rooms for a scenario, one-man entry, stop the bleeding, open communication during a crisis. So our unit, the school safety unit, will train as a specific group on a monthly basis in all the different schools when school's out of session.
Perfect.
Regarding reunification, how is it communicated to parents if and when that needs to happen?
I'm going to let you guys handle that one.
So what we have planned now in reunification is that we would message out after, God forbid, event was to occur to let parents know where to come and pick up their students. It likely would not be at the location of the school, but it could be. So again, it's all kind of scenario specific. So the information would need to be timely, and so it would come likely from Brian to parents and his communication methods of where to go in that situation.
Okay. Is it communicated to parents throughout the year or in the beginning of the year to not rush to a school if they hear something is happening, to sit tight and wait for that communication from Dr. Lutzy?
It's a very tough message.
Yeah.
Yep, so if something were to happen, the first message out there would be, please don't do this, and that we would communicate more information as appropriate as we go through. And one of the challenges is the speed of communication, right? You have about 7 minutes to get something out there before you lose that. So we use our school messenger system. It works very well. We did find in the earthquake that it was bogged down because so many schools are trying to use it all at the same time. So we have a backup system as well. So if something were to happen at a state level or otherwise, we have another way to communicate out that I'm not going to say because other school districts don't use it. But so we've thought about redundancy around those communications as well. Of course, our website is also something that we can update and people can come to us so that if the service goes down in certain pockets, everybody would have access to some of that information. But yeah, as Christy said, every scenario is case specific. But we have been trained in multiple scenarios in a variety of different ages and groups and possibilities. And hope we never have to use that training, of course. But communication is a key to that. And so we will continue to train and stay updated on all of the most recent tools and techniques that we can use to do that communication. We have been training right alongside the New Canaan Police, as they mentioned. We've had folks come in from different parts of the country to share their experiences with all of these situations and more. And we've got great partners across the board. You mentioned Russ Kimes and certainly our fire department. Everybody in town comes together around these important conversations. And I do want to also just to reiterate the great partnership with all of the town bodies and the Board of Education, of course, and to commend you for the insistence on the SROs at the schools. I think that's what helped us to make this happen. And to say thank you to the Board of Finance, the Town Council, and others who agreed. And really their feedback is always if the Board of Education feels this is an important initiative for the safety of our schools, then they're going to support it. And that's what has enabled us to create the system that we now have, which to me is certainly best in class anywhere that I've seen, as far as the interconnection of the physical safety, the cyber safety, the emotional safety, and the communication all around every one of our schools and our districts as a whole. So.
What is a chemical hygiene officer?
I don't know what the exact definition is, but, so essentially it is, and Jill, obviously jump in if I'm not saying it perfectly correctly, but it is someone to oversee and make sure that we have procedures and policies in place, that we are handling all of the chemicals that we use within the district safely and appropriate way. Mostly our chemicals within, say, schools or within, say, our chemistry department. So they're taking on those tasks.
Okay. And my last question is, what is the difference between a lockdown and a shelter in place?
So a lockdown is when we are preparing for a crisis situation within the building. So that is when we are, and again, it would depend on the age, the level of the student and how we drill for this, but this is when you're preparing for a violent event in a school potentially. And a shelter in place is when we are practicing for an event maybe outside of this school, or maybe something that's happening inside the school, like there maybe could have been, you know, someone who had an accident in the hallway, maybe tripped and fell, and we have to close down the hallway, so we're going to shelter in place and just keep everyone in their assigned classrooms to allow for maybe first responders or anyone to come and, you know, help that individual.
Okay. And thank you guys very much. Once it was announced that SROs were going to be in each elementary school, the community response was overwhelming. So, thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you for all you're doing to keep our school and our community safe. So I had one offer. Brendan basically said, come to the board if you need more support. And I want to say to the school safety unit, come to the police building committee if you need, if there's certain software that you need for scenario training, because that's something that I'm on that committee, and that's something that we're looking at right now. And we're going to have beautiful resource in the new building. And if there is more scenario training that you can do, like both on-site and you can do in the new room that we're going to have for it, I would just want to make certain that as the police building committee, we're supporting the schools and your unit in doing that.
That's great, thank you.
So that's, just want to make sure that's sort of on our short time horizon, so I wanted to make sure you did that. Secondly, I wanted to know, what are we doing in terms of to find out what best practices are on a national level as well as a state level? What organizations do we belong to? Are we sending representatives there on an annual basis to go and get the best ideas and bring them back for our schools?
Each officer who is assigned to the school safety unit is certified by NASRO. NASRO is a National Association of School Resource Officers. They set the benchmark of what the criteria is for each officer by utilizing the national research for the last 20 years about what is the best research to have the police departments and the education work together as a team. So routinely, we're doing juvenile law reviews with the police academy. We're using best practices on how to deal with mental health crises. Each of the officers is trained in crisis intervention responses, so they are go-to people on how to deal with a mental health crisis in the department. So the guys or guys and gals who are in this unit, they have all the training that's above what a standard patrol officer would have to respond to any crisis that happens in our school community. Recently, I traveled to Arizona for a national conference with National Association of School Resource Officers, and met with departments throughout the country on what are the best practices, what are people doing differently, what can we improve upon. You know, from having those conversations, we're doing the best. You know, there's for a community our size, and to have a dedicated officer in our schools, we're above par, and I think that as a community we should be proud of that. And again, I thank you for all your support and putting this all together. You know, any further questions? I hope I answered everything.
No, that's great. I was just, and for the school administrative team, what organizations are we belonging to and participating in?
Sure, New Canaan belongs to, I believe it's called DEMS Region 1, and within our region, we are given information on best practices, anything related to safety and security. We do come together for different trainings. I know a recent one was on school reunification in terms of what schools should be doing and how they should be preparing. So those do take place probably 2 or 3 times a year. there are training opportunities for all of our Region 1 schools.
And do we do anything to figure out what best practices are nationwide?
Yeah, so those bodies do report back on nationwide best practices. One thing we do, we don't always just adopt something because they say, we want to make sure through our crisis advisory board that it's what's best for us
Right.
in terms of aligning with best practices.
Right. Just to add, we are regularly receiving updates and bulletins and information from the FBI. As they're conducting their research and doing postmortems, other things, they are sending us information. They're sending out to all superintendents, schools, police departments, and others. And they do have trainings. The Homeland Security holds trainings periodically here in Connecticut and other parts of the country, and the FBI gets involved with that as well. And I also just want to reiterate something that Sergeant O'Sullivan said, which is when we had 2 SROs, we had 2 folks in those positions. They did a great job. But now that we have 5, we actually have a unit. And so working as a unit with the SROs, they're learning together, training together, and growing together in that. So you wouldn't have a unit with 2, but with 5, and I know, Mike, you and I spoke about this when it was all approved, it really gives us an opportunity to go to the next level, I think, with the SROs and the work that they do and the training that they do. Because of that, and with Sergeant Sullivan supervising and leading that team, they do get to function as a team in that way. So I think that really adds quite a bit of value to the role of SRO and to the benefits of our schools. So, thank you.
I forgot to highlight one thing. So in the last few months, I started a new training initiative where all the SROs are getting trained on monitoring online content for threats. So when they were talking about the Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, they started putting on free training for school resource officers throughout the country, and how to monitor a platform on social media for school-related threats. So this is all cutting-edge stuff that we're doing. And they have the tools, the resources. If we hear of something, they know how to get onto social media, how to look for the threat, how to find it. We're routinely having communications, throughout the state now. There's all these crisis events that are being called into schools and hospitals via hoax numbers. And so we're having these open communication on a daily basis. Like, for instance, today there was stuff going on in a neighboring community. I put it out to the SROs right away. Hey, heads up, we know that this is happening in a nearby community just in case. So we're functioning as a unit, like a patrol unit, like assigned to the street. So.
Additionally with that, myself and Officer Blank are also members of our Department of Special Response team. So we have additional training when it comes to tactical clearing and building and stuff. And we also train with other teams within the region, as well as facilities nationwide. So we've been able to bring a lot of that training back to our department as well and assist with that. And we also have open line communications with other SROs throughout the region. So if they see something going on, we could communicate with them and then try to implement that, the best practice, how we can within our unit as well.
And Shane, why don't you just explain the training that you guys went to in Region Tier 1 or?
So recently myself and Officer Blank attended a tactical training down in Tier 1 Tactical Group in Arkansas, where we were down there for, I believe it was 5 days, where we focused on room clearing and communication, movement. So it was high-level training from high-level instructors, where the majority of the units that go there are Tier 1 SWAT teams, or Tier 1 tactical teams throughout the nation. So they were gracious enough to host us. So bringing that training back to our department as well as our unit is huge to be able to go do that.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The vulnerability assessments, are those event-driven, or do we do those a couple times a year?
Yeah, by the state, we're required every 3 years. So administrators, police, fire, any type of town management, emergency services, buildings and grounds, we all get together and we visit each school. And there's a checklist that we have to follow, probably of, just throw a number, 100 different things that we have to check for. And we have to assess our buildings. And if something is not satisfactory or up to par, there's action items we do develop to make sure that it's in place by the time we start school.
And then just a quick one on the supervisory aides. So I'm just curious what their marching orders are. Like if they're out at recess or in the cafeteria, like are they interventionists, or are they out there in sort of like, are they more supposed to have kind of like a light touch?
I would definitely say light touch, because we want them to be, we want them to be supporters of our students. Will they act in an emergency? Absolutely. But if something is going on, first and foremost, they try and diffuse the situation, but then let a certified staff member know, or administrator, so then we can handle it from that point. A lot of times they may have special assignment where they're trying to help a few different kids throughout the day. But really kind of the unstructured time and being a support for students. They do look for certain things that we make them aware of to make sure that we maintain a safe environment. But really, we don't ask them to handle discipline. We ask them to identify, intervene, make sure something doesn't get more serious, but let us know so we can handle the next steps.
That's great, because, it's obviously no one wants any kind of major issue going on at these schools, but at the same time, the kids need, latitude to some degree to figure out these problems on their own.
Yeah, and I would say probably half the time they're able to talk through it with the kids, because they're not seen as an authoritative figure in the sense of the word.
Yep.
They are seen as a staff member who's there to help them. And we're very specific in terms of what we ask them to do. We would never ask them to handle a discipline situation, because we want them to maintain that trusting relationship with the kids.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. In regards to this, I want to follow up on the vulnerability assessments. The SROs on a routine basis, probably on a daily basis, I know one of them just got done today. They go through each building, checking to see, hey, this locks need to be rekeyed, this camera is not working, this door is not working properly, and they communicate that up the chain of command to get those things fixed. So it's happening on a pretty much daily, weekly basis, as opposed to a couple of months. So any issues that are coming up are addressed at that time.
Sorry, I know you guys have answered a lot of questions. I just have a quick question under the cyber category, which it says there's more information to come. But as you look forward and planning forward, is there anything like that you don't have that's a wish list item, or something that you want as we look at our planning for the next year? Is there something that we can advocate or prioritize for you guys to support you in better implementing out your unit?
I probably have to do a little more research on that to come up with some ideas. But at this time, nothing would come to light that I need right now. At the end of the year, we may have a new development of different things that came up. I know when I was at the conference in Arizona, there was rooms and rooms full of people, different vendors with all kinds of different, security apparatuses and programs that they can put. It just have to do a deep dive into what we have, and will it stay the course of time as technology advances? Because it seems like from talking with those vendors, it's a constantly changing landscape of things. So we'd have to do a lot of research to see, what is viable and what's going to stay the course of time if we're going to make an investment in such programs or initiatives.
And then as a follow-up, I know last year there was a broader community discussion about cell coverage and network coverage in the town, and some of the emergency units weighed in on that and where they dropped schedule. And there was discussion about the walkie-talkies, and I know we got new walkie-talkies in the system. I just want to make sure or assure parents that in emergencies, all throughout the town, there's clear communication between the buildings with cell coverage and stuff like that.
You're talking about the walkie-talkies at the SROs and the campus monitors? I'll let you comment on that.
So we do have clear communication throughout school to school. We also have backup communication in case something fails in emergency. So if we all know cell coverage in this town is kind of spotty sometimes, but that's one of the luxury about being a police officer. We have radio communication. So that throughout the town has been upgraded, and it actually works very well. So if there's something going on, say at west or east or something, we can communicate openly without having an interruption with that.
Great, awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you so much. Super impressive presentation, and even more impressive how you guys have all come together. And this has evolved pretty rapidly over the last couple of years into a really meaningful partnership and collaboration with the town. And I'm sure not alone, but I definitely sleep better knowing that you guys are at the helm here. So thank you so much, and thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, moving on, we've got a number of action items. They're all first reads, so customarily, we could certainly answer any questions, and but customarily, we'll take a motion for the first read, and then for the second, have time for all of us to review between now and the next meeting, and then discuss it. So the first one, action item, is the budget assumptions, related priorities, and the budget calendar for the first read. Dr. Lutz, you want to comment on anything, or?
Sure. Well, only to just briefly share with the board, I know that you're getting this now. The budget assumptions and related priorities, as you're aware, help to guide us in our decision-making around resources as we develop our budget. It also helps to put some language and direction around the district goals that we have so that we can draw a straight line between some of the requests in our budget and the goals that the board has set for our district in the long and the short term. They don't change all that much year to year sometimes. What we will do is sometimes if we had some initiatives in that we've completed, those might be removed. If there's some new initiatives, we may add those in. But as you know, the work that we do is iterative as well. We're not reinventing things every year. We're taking the next best logical step based on the momentum and the success and the challenges that we've had in the year before. So as you look through these, you'll see a pretty tight alignment between the district goals and objectives for 24-25 and those budget assumptions and related priorities going forward into 25-26. And certainly glad to, talk about any of these at any depth or, with any feedback that you'd like to share. I know, again, that we just walked these in, so you didn't have a chance to see them prior to the meeting. You'll see that we do talk a little bit about some of the mandates that are in place and the resource allocation needs that those drive. For us, communication remains a very important dimension of the work, of course, that we're doing. Our investment in professional learning. And as we're continuing to develop our budget, we're seeing more and more that this year where it's really a focus on investing in the resources that we have, further building the capacity around those investments, and sort of it's an investing in excellence type of budget. So it's an iterative move. Take a look, and glad to answer any questions between now and our next Board of Education meeting, which the workshop next week, we don't vote at workshops, as you know, so that would be 2 weeks from tonight. Would be our next meeting to have it as a second read.
Great, thank you very much. Can I get a motion to accept as a first reading budget assumptions and related priorities for fiscal year 2026 budget development? Matt Campbell, second. Brendan Hayes, thank you. Next, the 2026-27 district calendar for the first read.
Yep, and we always try to be about a year and a half out on our calendars because we know people like to plan. And then if something has to adjust, it certainly can. So you have in front of you the 26-27 district calendar. It continues to schedule 182 days for us, which is what we do in our contract and what we've done for many years. You see, it's an interesting year in that Labor Day is as late as it can be on Monday the 7th. So we set this calendar up so we would begin on August 24th, 25th, 26th with our staff days. First day of school would be the 27th with students. And then we run through, and it's, you see that we have both Labor Day, Yom Kippur, Columbus Day. We get into the professional learning on Election Day, November 3rd. We go to a half day on the 25th, 26th, 27th, Thanksgiving, which is 2 years ahead of where we are now. You get into December and you see the December break and can continue that forward. A couple of questions that came up for me in putting this together for the board is, with all of the days as they are here, it would have us ending our year on Tuesday, June 15th. So there is a possibility, if the board was interested in doing this, and just something to consider, don't need to decide tonight, we could look at if you look in March, Good Friday is on the 26th, so that is a holiday. So Easter falls on the 28th, so you could look at, say, the 29th for the day after Easter. I know there are a couple of districts that have done that. We've not done that in the past, but because it doesn't line up with spring break, could be something we look at. Or it could also be instead April 9th, Friday, April 9th, which is the Friday prior to the week off. And the Board of Education does have a policy around vacations and calendars that says where feasible, that we would look to have the Friday off prior to a week break, as it's a bit of a travel day. I think it can be helpful for if people are traveling and beating the traffic or whatever it might be. So it's a couple of different things to consider. I wouldn't recommend doing both. I think Thursday the 17th is late, but Wednesday the 16th is possibility if we wanted to. That gives us a couple of days for snow days if need be. We do also have in that same policy, it speaks to, we will do everything within our power to end no later than the Friday of the third full week in June. The Friday of the third full week in June is June 25th. I would not recommend that we go that far, not by any stretch, but it does give us a little bit more flexibility if we had to do something. So a couple of options. What we did was keep it tight and bring it to the board for consideration, and glad to talk between now and 2 weeks from now.
Great, thank you. One thing I noticed was if you look at the 22nd in December, it's doubled up. And then right below it, it says that the 12/22 is a half day when it should be 12/23.
That's right, thank you.
So that's just a minor update.
Got it.
Great. Thank you. So can I get a motion to accept as a first reading the 2026-27 school district calendar? Erica, second. Penny, thank you. And then moving on to policy updates from a recent governance meeting. We'd like to move to approve revisions to the Board of Education Policy 5100, age of entrance and grade placement in the school system for a first reading. Do you want to talk about that? Or?
Sure. So the board may recall that last year when we approved this policy, the 5100 age of entrance and grade placement, state had changed the legislation and changed the age of eligibility for students entering kindergarten to September 1st, where it used to be December 31st, with the understanding that districts had to offer a waiver if families were interested in doing that. We felt that given the short notice, it was less than a couple of months turnaround in this, we wanted to be sure that we both made that waiver available to anybody who wanted it, but also had that time bound so that it would only last 1 year, so we had a chance to take a look at things, and we'd be back at the table to revise it this year. So what you have in front of you as a revision is a bit of a change, not much, but you'll see under the waiver language, the language as proposed is that it's for children who don't reach age 5 by September 1, or age 6 by September 1 for first grade. That if there's a compelling reason for early enrollment that's outlined in writing to the building principal, the principal would schedule a meeting for the parent, the child, school staff to come together and discuss why they're interested in enrolling the child early and perform some type of an assessment. And the principal would be the one making that decision. We found that because while there are, some students are doing quite well, it is still important, it's important long and short term that students are with their age-appropriate peers. And with the state moving from December 31st to September 1st as that age of eligibility, we want to try to align with that as much as we can. Again, unless there's a compelling reason for the student to enroll early, because otherwise they're really ineligible for kindergarten based on that law. So we feel like we've given some time for this to work itself through. And the challenge here in part is that preschools they're enrolling now, right? So they're looking to see, should they hold spots for their existing students to stay, or should they open those up to somebody else? And one of our challenges, of course, as a district is if families are unsure, or even if they'd like to enroll, they may come with their child, but they'd have to come now, right? So you're talking about a child who is significantly younger, even today, than they would be when we start in August, and it's a very difficult decision to make. So we'd like to do is really sort of help parents to make the decision, unless there's a compelling reason, to have their child enroll with their age-appropriate peers. If it's after September 1, to have them wait that year, do one more year in pre-K, and then join kindergarten the year after that. We had about 30 students overall, a couple at West, a few more at South, most over at East. And again, they're doing, some are doing great, some are having some challenges, but that's true of all kindergartners, different times. But we think that it's better for the kids in the long term to come in with their age-appropriate peers. So that's why that little shift in language. Again, we felt last year it was important because of the very short notice. We felt that was unfair. So if families weren't prepared, they didn't have a spot, they didn't want their children to come in, they should. But as we look at it now, and we've had some more time, without a compelling reason, we think we would like them to continue in pre-K for another year and join us the year after.
I specifically remember discussing this last year when we talked about the process for appeal and what is compelling, what determines a compelling reason, right? I think that's very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that ultimately the parents, if they insist, they would have that option, right? Because the state law requires that they won't automatically be enrolled. It's not that they can't be enrolled, right? And so could that level of detail is missing in this revision.
So the shift in the revision, so really it's the age of eligibility for kindergarten. So they're really saying you're eligible from September 1 back, not eligible from second on. But there's a waiver process, right? And so that's what they've said. So it's not that they're not automatically enrolled, it's that they can waive in if they feel that there's a reason to waive in. We felt that, we completely said, look, if you put your name in, we'll let you in because it was such short notice, right? So now we're trying to tighten that up a little bit and to really say that the principals as the experts of the school, of the building, of the age, of the developmental level, and they'll be using the same developmental milestones that we've used in the past and we've asked people to look at. A compelling reason could be if somebody is significantly advanced in the work that they're doing. If we have kindergartners that are clearly able to manage that work. But one of the challenges is the younger students are often the less ready they are to be in a school environment with other kids and the distractions and the social dimensions of all of that. So that's where some type of assessment by the principal would be important to make. So
I mean, I would argue that the parents are the experts of the child, let alone not necessarily the building, but I'm an October birthday, so.
okay. Yeah, and again, there's some reason, sometimes it makes perfect sense, and it can work very well, obviously. But
Not that it worked well for me, but it did, I'm just joking.
Of course. But similarly, the teachers are the experts of the classroom, right, and the dynamics and the teaching and the work that they're doing. So I think that, and the principals in their schools. So I think that it's certainly a relationship there, and it's a conversation there, for sure. We don't ever want to be in a spot where, we're telling people, no, you can't come to school. We always want to welcome people in with open arms as much as we can. But we also have to be cognizant of what is best in the long term for that child. So a compelling reason could be if they do exhibit the maturity, the intellectual capacity, the discipline to sort of stick with the work, to see that through. Not many kids that are much later in the year can do that. Some can. And it may be different if it's a September 3 versus a December 3, right? And so that's where those decisions, I think, with the principal and conversation with the parents, I think are best. So in talking with the principals, talking with some of my colleagues, talking with the governance committee, felt that just like all the other dimensions of this policy have the principal as that final arbiter, that this should fall in that same spot. And that's what the policy is to bring forward for consideration.
Just one general comment, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to add in response to you being in the governance committee, what we really thought we had to look at and act for was the best interest of the child who wants to come in or what are there, and also the best interest of all the children who are in that classroom. Because it's the dynamic and the personality of the classroom, as well as all the individual students that make up how much is accomplished in that year. And I put that in as a September 28th birthday.
Oh, well, I mean, and I fully understand that, but I think you could say that a January birthday compared to September or an August birthday, there's a bigger delta than a September 1st to a October 30th birthday. I mean, obviously you have to draw the line, and that was my only point. And then there may be exceptions, but and they would be specific to the child, not necessarily to the school. Therefore, I would defer to the parents who would, I'm assuming, want the best for their child as well. And so And that's where I would defer as opposed to just sort of an arbitrary deadline deferred to an administrator. But just a general comment, I think that would be helpful for us going forward as I look at sort of several of these revisions that need to be approved through the first reading. As they come out of governance committee, it'd be helpful to have a red line, just so we can sort of compare.
Yep. Yep, happy to do that.
I have a question. For some of those students that we had this year that are on the younger side, or in the future, if we have some that are on the younger side, do we ever consider asking them to repeat kindergarten? Is that, I don't know of it, and so I just don't know if that's something that comes up, but, you know, as a way of saying, well, maybe they're not ready to progress. I don't know.
Yeah, so repeating a grade is challenging for students for a variety of different reasons, for social, for lots and lots of reasons. So we dissuade people from doing that unless it's a very clear cut. One of the things we have to caution against is early enrollment with the intention of doing that. Right, so that's part of where I think the principal's input is so important with all of that, because there are, what might seem like a good idea, again, isn't, in some ways can be not that for the child in their own development and what they're doing.
I just had a question. I mean, our old bright line used to be December 31, right? Our new bright line is September 1st. But I don't ever recall anybody being admitted early if they had a January birthday under the old system. Did we do that? or
No,
not?
we've had some requests, but
Okay.
we did not accept those requests. But we did have some requests in the past. Jill may know of one or two.
And I think the biggest difference is that the state has put in a waiver component. So in the past, the cutoff for kindergarten was the cutoff. So the
Okay.
State Department had said the cutoff is December 31st, and that's it. So that you didn't accept a person who had a birthday on January 1st. So that was just the cutoff. The state has now added in the waiver component, and that's what's causing us to have these conversations and this discussion, and all the communities are having the discussion.
And that waiver, it only captures from September 2nd, let's say, till the end of the year.
Yes.
Still limited by calendar year.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Are we expecting the state at some point to get rid of that waiver and just to, and when? Do we think they?
So we are in a meeting today with CAPS and the legislative committee there. That's one of our recommendations statewide by superintendents and districts to not have that waiver because of what it creates and causes. And for us, we're talking 30 students. For larger districts, you can imagine it's hundreds of students that are in flux. Will they or won't they? And how do you staff up for that? How do you prepare for that? And there are lots of questions that come with it. So I don't think, nor do my colleagues think it's a good move to have the waiver like we do in the language that we have. So we'd like to see it removed. Don't know if it's going to be or not, but that's on our legislative agenda this year.
Although I guess having September 1st doesn't give you any more clarity. I mean, just knowing my kids and half the kids in New Canaan, I mean, my kids have, friends that have May birthdays that were held back a year, right? So it doesn't, you're not obligated to enroll if you have a birthday prior to September 1st. It's still at the discretion of the parents. And so
Correct.
it doesn't really give you as much visibility as you think, right?
Right.
Everyone's read the book Outliers, and apparently that's in vogue to just hold your kid back, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what it does do is try to shorten the gap a little bit between your oldest and youngest in your kindergarten class. Because that is a challenge, as you can imagine, if you've got 6 and 4.
Well, that's what I was saying. From January to
that's-
August is bigger delta than from
Yeah.
August to October, right? So-
25% of their lives missing, right?
Great.
Other questions? So as a mid-November birthday, my parents can tell you that they tried to keep me back, and I don't know if it was a language barrier or what, but they were very offended. So that conversation did not go very well, and I think I also turned out okay.
I think you did too.
So my wife might debate that, but. So let's, if I can get a motion, please, to approve revisions to Board of Education Policy 5100, age of entrance and grade placement in the school system for first reading. Phil, second. Erica, thank you. Next policy update from governance is Board of Education Policy 5322, Open Campus New Canaan High School.
Sure. So again, in this one, what we're looking to do is to align it with practices that emerge as a result of pandemic and other things. You'll see that this policy dates back to 1993. Things have changed a little bit since 93 in a variety of different ways. So what we're looking at doing here is changing a bit, really it's the sophomores who change the most. Our freshmen are the same, of course, with a rotating schedule like we have. When freshmen have that first block free or the last block free with parent permission, they can leave campus. Okay. Now with again, that schedule across the board, all 9 through 12. Our sophomores, same thing. If they have the first or last unassigned, they can come or go. They also, though, if they have times during the school day with parental permission, they can leave and empty the campus and come back but they have that whole block. So the block is 84 minutes long. So with parent permission, they can do that, and the same with our juniors and seniors. What they can't do is leave just during the lunch period, which they haven't been able to do, although students sometimes think they can. So when their lunch period is a full block and the full block is free, then with parent permission, they can leave. But just for the 23-minute or so lunch period that we have, with passing time in between, they're not permitted to go off campus for that purpose, right? But it just really aligns our policies with practices that have emerged recently over the last, say, 4 years, where sophomores now with parental permission can leave campus with a full block. And again, you couldn't do it. The old policy was before the block schedule, so the periods were shorter. So that's one of the reasons why sophomores could not do that. And freshmen don't do it in the middle of the day because they are assigned into study halls, and they have additional support available to them during that time. So that's the shift there. And again, Matt, to your question, I will send you red lines in the next couple of days, just so you have them. Sure.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve revisions? Sorry, you have a question, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, between the second paragraph is about sophomores. The third one's about juniors and seniors. What is the difference between those two?
Just the age of the kids.
So can we
kidding.
not just say sophomores, juniors, and seniors?
No, because I think that it's important to call out the sophomores separately, just because you have upperclassmen and lowerclassmen. So you have freshmen, sophomores, and then juniors and seniors as the upperclassmen.
Okay.
If something were to change down the line and we decide we wanted to do something a little differently, I think it just signals that they're, to me at least, I don't know. The same conversation was had at governance, and I'm not a fan of redundancy either, but it just seemed that we want to show that we're considering sophomores separately from juniors and seniors as underclassmen.
Got it. It did seem the second paragraph had unassigned times plural, and juniors and seniors, it says unassigned time singular. And so that seemed to be the only difference in the language between the two. So whichever one it is.
I'll clean that up. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Go first and
going
second.
twice. Can I get a motion to approve revisions to the Board of Education Policy 5322, Open Campus New Canaan High School for first reading? Penny, second, Matt Campbell. Thank you. All right, we've got two more. The next is the policy, Board of Education, Policy 6500, High School Graduation Standards.
And this one comes from the changes in legislation up at Hartford, where we've moved from 23 credits for graduation to 25 credits for graduation, and the distribution of those credits has changed a bit. Instead of being very specific and prescriptive around the number of years for English, social studies, science, math, what have you, they've grouped them as humanities and 9 credits in the humanities, and you see how those are broken down there with English, social studies, visual performing arts, and then a combination of other courses within those. If you turn it over, you see 9 credits in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And there's distribution there. That, of course, it's a minimum distribution, so 3, 3.5, and then 2.5 that can fit, so students can go deeper in their areas of interest and competency. We've got 1.0 in physical education and wellness, 1.0 in health and safety education, which is a semester or a quarter every year, so they have that each year as they go through. And because it is on a rotating schedule, over the course of the 4 years, they earn the 1.0 credit. 1.0 world languages, which again is in the legislation, and then you see the additional credits there totaling up to the 25. You see the note at the bottom, beginning with the class of 2027, they are required also to have 0.5 credits in personal financial management. So in 2027, for that graduating class, we can look at revising what's above and build that right in and make it no longer a note. But because we're sort of in transition right now with our students, graduating students, we wouldn't do that. Students also have the opportunity and are encouraged to complete the graduation portfolio, which gives them an opportunity to select their model work. It's not necessarily the best, but the model work from their 4 years throughout high school. They develop a portfolio with that work, with entry slips as to why they feel that this best represents their achievement in different disciplines and in these 5 areas that were developed as the portrait of the graduate. And then those are reviewed by the staff. That not necessarily their teachers, but staff will read one, or sometimes each one will be read by 2 staff members who talk about it, and then give meets or does not yet meet the standards for that graduation portfolio. So it's a way to reflect on their years throughout the school. We've done some things like this before in smaller pockets, but this is a school-wide effort that we encourage all students to take advantage of and to do. And you see that's broken down here at the end. And what I didn't mention, I apologize, in the very beginning of the policy is the required course load. And so this is the minimum number of courses students need to take each year in order to be considered a full-time student, and we don't admit part-time students. And part of this is driven by the CIAC and athletic eligibility. And part of it is the how to put together your schedule in order to hit your 25 credits or more.
Question, where are the incremental 2 credits? So there's 23, and this the minimum sums to 23. Now it's 25. So where are the 2? Where do they show up? Were they grouped in humanities, STEM? Where are those 2 added?
It's a combination of both. It's in the they have the electives for, it's, as we had before, it's the 4 credits of English, it's 3 credits of social studies. There are then, it's a 1.5 in the sort of visual performing arts, graphics, business, family, consumer science. Excuse me.
So that was what was added? I'm trying to bridge from the 23 to the 25.
Let me take a look. There's 3 credits of science in the 25. There's a 2.0 minimum, or 2.0 in the past.
Okay.
In science. So there's one. Let's see.
One science and one what? I didn't hear that.
I don't know what the other one is.
Oh, okay. No, and then I guess I've mentioned this before a few times. As far as we think about sort of the future and sort of where the world is going and programming, right? And sort of introducing our children to computer science and some programming language, right? It seems that given this addition of credits, right, and given sort of where the distribution of this addition, right? It seems like one's at least in science, and there are other electives that could sort of satisfy that. It seems like this would be a great opportunity to address that.
So one of the things that was added was the 2.5 in the STEM courses, any combination of courses equaling 5 semesters for technology-based courses, including BPA courses, other in math, science, or career and tech. So that it does go a little bit heavier into the sciences than the previous set of standards does. Our students needed 23, but generally they graduated with 24, 25, 26. And just like this sets the minimum baseline, there will have students that are still graduating with 26, 27 credits and more. So we'll keep looking at that as well.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, since there's already an allocation to STEM, why can't we get more specific and require a computer programming class? Is that?
We could discuss it. It certainly would have budget implications and some others. I'd be glad to talk to the high school guidance department and the administration, have them come and put something together for us to see what that would take to do. I'd also like to see what our enrollment is currently, because the program itself, I know, is growing and thriving and doing quite well. Both our AP computer science courses, because we've got multiple now, and some of the others that we have. So I'd want to look at the program and see, like, what would we consider to be? Is it pure coding? Is it more, is it AP computer science where they're learning Java, C++, and others? Or are there some others that would sort of meet the criteria of what you're sort of thinking about? So I'd want to take a look at that program studies first and see what our enrollments are in those courses currently, because we may be close to that already, but I want to see where we are.
Just one comment. I mean, I think this policy is at a higher level than specific courses. So like I view this is graduation standards. Within each one of these, we have a whole bunch of different courses that we offer and in some cases require. So I view that as something that, like, today we might say it's programming, but in 5 years it could be like learning something around AI, which I have no idea what it might be, but it might be AI oriented to, drive a program rather than actually students programming themselves. So to me, this is the macro, and the micro is something that we deal with, year to year around curriculum and courses.
In the program studies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my only point was that the macro increased by 2, so let's sort of earmark something. It's an opportunity for us to earmark and think about that.
I think we're doing that, right, because of the course changes that we've made. It's just not reflected in this policy.
Right, so what the policy does is take the state requirements, sort of spell those out, and so it sets that baseline. But if the board wanted to do more than that, then certainly can do that. So we'll take a look at the program studies and the course enrollments in some of the classes as you're talking about, and get that information around.
Great.
Can you just clarify, I know you covered it quickly, the health and safety education, 1 semester plus 1 semester plus 2 quarters, adding up to 1 year? How does that
Because
work?
it doesn't meet every day, it's in a rotation. Because generally what happens with the block schedule is we have what are called skinnies. And so sometimes this will be taught in a skinny, that'll be opposite a science lab. So it doesn't meet every other day as a block does, it might meet every 4th day.
Okay.
And so it's just the
So it's a
frequency of-
semester in
it's about seat
time,
time
but it's
in
not
the-
a semester of credit then
Correct.
because
It's not a 0.5 credit because it's not meeting every course
Yeah.
period of that
Okay,
semester.
got it. Is that was ambiguous to me. I don't know if that's in terms of the language here, because it looks like it adds up to 1.5. So I don't know if there's a way of clarifying that's the way the skinnies work to make it add up to 1. I get it when you say it, but
Sure.
it just wasn't clear to me in the policy.
Okay. Well, and again, to the point, that's how they work today. That might shift over time. I don't know. But I can look and try to clarify it. The point in putting it like this is so that people know their expectation is that there will be something every year for them, right? So that as they look at this, they don't think, I'll just wait till senior year and I'll just take 1 class and be done with it.
Got it.
That there are reasons why we want 9th graders to be in 10th, 11th, 12th, and it has
Yeah.
to do with, the course itself, the developments and needs, and where the students are, and, sort of being most responsive to them.
Yeah.
So we want that point to be in there somewhere. So we'll take a look at it.
I think it's also important to recognize that it also lines up with the PE. And once again, when you're talking about staffing and budgeting. So the 9th graders take health the first semester, and then they take PE the second semester, and it flips for the sophomores. So the sophomores do the reverse. And so it just allows us to manage all the sections that we need at both of those grade levels, as well as the staffing needs.
Got it.
Great, thank you. So understanding this is relatively high-level policy, but also appreciating Matt's point that if we are going to be increasing the requirement, then there's potentially some opportunity for us to dig a little bit deeper and figure out what maybe some classes that could be offered in that world could be. Okay, great. So if we can I get a motion, please, to approve revisions to the Board of Education Policy 6500, high school graduation standards for first reading. Matt Campbell, second. Wex, thank you. And then the last policy is 6600, homework.
Yep, and legislation requires that boards of education have a policy on homework. The high school had done some work earlier in the year because the existing language specifically says for grades 9 through 12, 90 minutes per night, up to a maximum of 1 hour per night per academic subject. So they never really knew what that meant. Did it mean if one class gave an hour of homework, then everyone else had to divide up 30 minutes? Or how that would actually be operationalized. So the high school met this year as a group. They had a committee working on this to develop the recommendation that you now see under grades 9 through 12, which is 0 to 45 minutes of homework per class meeting or course. Students in advanced classes may expect increased responsibilities commensurate with the course weighting, and teachers will make every attempt to stay within the 45-minute guidelines. So it gives you those guidelines, and that's what these are meant to be. There will be some times that are more, sometimes that are less, but it's really meant to be a target for teachers to work towards and for students to know what to expect. We also made an adjustment to grades 5 and 6. They were 2 hours and 3 hours, and now they are 3 hours and 3.5 hours per week, of course, not per night. And that is due to the independent reading assignments that kids have. They're asked to read 20 minutes per night in 5th grade, so if just the 20 minutes per night alone over the course of a week, that's 100 minutes, so it's in order to provide enough time for the other work to go in there as well. So that was that adjustment there. But really, the bigger is the high school's expectations, and again, just to update it.
Quick question. So is this a state requirement, or is this just what we're doing within our district?
The state requires us to have a policy on homework. Doesn't say what it needs to be. It says you should have a policy. So that we've set this policy in response to having to have one, which we've had to have for a very long time.
Okay.
But,
And then our high school students help craft the 9 through 12 policy?
or our teachers.
Our teachers.
Yeah, it was, so in our faculty senate, teachers identify what areas they'd like to work on as part of that faculty senate. So they went, the group that picked homework went off, did some research, and put together this recommendation that then went back to the faculty before coming here to the board. Yeah.
And then there are a lot of studies that contradict the efficacy of homework and how it impacts grades and stuff. Do we have a list of studies that they use to create this policy? Like, how do we come up with an hour and 20 minutes? Like, is that based on a study that says kids blank out after that amount of time and it doesn't improve grades, or is that a sweet spot, or how do we?
I think the teachers came to, as they developed the up to 0 to 45 minutes per course per night at the high school, right? And when they put that together, they really were thinking about their course and standards of what they're teaching and what their practices are and what they're doing. There's another whole thing that happens over at the high school about if they're going into holiday breaks or longer vacations, wherever it might be. They're encouraged not to give homework over the breaks. Back in the day, and those that went to New Canaan High School may recall that often the day after a holiday break, there'd be papers due and tests and things. So we've stopped doing that, right? We're not doing that anymore, and we're really encouraging teachers to try to balance their work expectations. So when students get a break and school's on break, the kids can recharge and use that time. So they've tried to balance all of that in coming up with the 0 to 45 minutes. Again, there are certain courses that they're just content driven. When you get into the high school, you've got your APs in your junior and senior year, and that content expectation and need is going to drive what you set for homework and how much students are doing. For instance, in AP Literature, you might be reading a book a week. And that's just part of what you sign up for when you sign up for that class. So that may be hard to keep within 45 minutes per course per night, but that's, the teachers communicate those expectations out early. I'll be happy to talk with the committee at the high school that developed the recommendation and see if they had a white paper or something else that they use to communicate with the staff and share it with you.
I'd appreciate that.
Sure.
I have just one more question. Is there a mechanism for students who are regularly exceeding this from their teacher to say, hey, this course load is every night I'm going over this, or something like that? Can I work with you? Like, how do students advocate?
That would be the best way to do it, would be to talk with that teacher directly and let them know. So because we don't want students to be spending 6 hours a night on homework, right?
But
there needs to be a balance. So if somebody's finding that the work is taking a lot longer than the 45 minutes on a regular basis, then that would be the right first conversation. And then, of course, they can speak with one of their administrators or others if they had to, but
that's just up for the student to self-advocate. There's not like a form or a formal way to say, like, hey, this load isn't working for me.
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep.
I just want to add in that the students do meet with their guidance counselors regularly as well. And so that's an opportunity for the student to advocate to their guidance counselor that they're finding homework overwhelming, and then their guidance counselor might work through strategies or talk with the teacher with them to try to help them work on those self-advocacy skills as well.
And conversely, do counselors proactively ask students that? Or is that, again, still up for the student to bring that to authority?
They just meet with all of the students that they are assigned to on a regular basis. They usually try to touch base with them at least once a quarter. And so those are the kinds of conversations that they'll have. They'll usually look at their grades. They'll usually ask how they're doing. They'll usually ask about their workload. They'll usually ask about where they want to go for next year, what's something that's really of interest to them, what's something that they're really excelling in, that they feel really great about. So it's really trying to help map out where they're going to go for their graduation requirements as well. But it is all part of those conversations that they have.
And can you remind me, Dr. Gurney, how many students per counselor do we have on average?
Yeah,
It's
under 200.
It's under 200. I would have to get the number for you and get back the exact figure.
But it's somewhere in that park?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Thank you. Can I get a motion, please, to approve revisions to Board of Education Policy 6600, homework for a first reading? Penny, second. Matt Campbell, thank you. All right, we're back up to comments from the public. Anybody like to approach the board? Seeing as there are none, we're going to do announcements and future business, please.
Sure, just, excuse me, briefly, we have our budget workshop a week from tonight, so we'll be here in the Wagner Room, starting at 6 o'clock, I believe, 6:30. I'll make sure, I'll double check that. Do want to share that we had our annual Turkey Bowl on Thanksgiving morning, and want to congratulate Coach Marinelli and the team on their 35-0 victory over our friendly neighbors next door. That's 7 straight, not to rub it in. And to congratulate them also for, again, making the state playoffs. And so tomorrow night we'll be hosting Maloney here at Dunning at 7 p.m. So hopefully you can come, and if you do, dress warmly. It'll be cold. I also just want to quickly say today is World Special Education Day. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you to Mr. Tesber, to say thank you to all of our administrators across the district, all of our special education teachers, our teaching assistants, our drivers of our vans, everyone who contributes to helping to ensure that our special education students have an outstanding educational experience while they're here in New Canaan, just like all of our students do. It's a labor of love in many ways. And wanted to say, just take a moment to say thank you and to acknowledge their outstanding work on our students and families' behalf. So, thank you.
And perhaps maybe just there's a presentation tomorrow as well?
There is, yep. So tomorrow at the library, Mr. Tesber and his team will be presenting at the library about the special education process. And
at 10 o'clock in the morning, we'll be at the library. Myself and the three of the four special ed administrators will be there, and we'll be talking about the services we offer special education students pre-K through 22.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks.
All right. Next, we're going to adjourn into executive session in accordance with Connecticut General Statute 1-200. The subject to be discussed are collective bargaining tentative agreement for the New Canaan Board of Education food service workers and cybersecurity. Can I get a motion to adjourn into executive session? Matt Campbell, second. Penny. All in favor? Okay, thank you. We're adjourned into executive session.